10 WWE wrestlers who randomly returned for just one match. Number 10. Francine, WWE ECW 2006. Francine was the staple of the original ECW in the 90s, where she earned the nickname the Queen of Extreme. Mostly known for her work as a valet for the likes of Shane Douglas, Tommy Dreamer, and the Pitbulls, Francine provided the sex appeal that Paul Heyman was looking for in his rebellious promotion. Following the WWE buyout of ECW in April of 2001, Francine would be one of the many ECW names not to join the wrestling giant in the Time for the Invasion angle. Instead, she would sign for TNA in June of 2002, never to be seen inside the WWE ring, but this is until the ECW reboot in 2006. Francine would make several house show appearances in bikini contests with Kelly before making a television return alongside Balls Mahoney during his feud against Kevin Thorne. Francine would work an extreme catfight against Thorne's valet Ariel during this brief run, which ended in a no contest on ECW television. This was her first and only WWE match to date. Number 9. The Nasty Boys and SmackDown 2007. The Nasty Boys of Brian Knobbs and Jerry Saggs were one of the WWE's most unique tag teams in the early 90s, known for their brawling style and grungy look. The former WWE Tag Team Champions would leave the company in 93, moving to WCW until 1997, before disappearing from television altogether. Jerry Saggs and Brian Knobbs have only made one appearance in WWE since 1993, joining forces in November in 2007 at a SmackDown taping 14 years after their last match. They would take part in a dark match where they battled Dave Taylor and a young Drew McIntyre who was looking to impress the powers that be ahead of a permanent move from developmental. Unfortunately, this turned out to be Drew McIntyre's worst match he's ever been in. Number 8. Davey Boy Smith Jr., a dark match 2021. Davey Boy Smith Jr., the son of the legendary British Bulldog, would carve a name for himself in WWE when he signed for the company in 2007. He went on to win 2 tag team championships alongside Tyson Kidd as one half of the Hart Dynasty, establishing himself as a mainstay of the main roster. Then working under the name of David Hart Smith, he would eventually depart WWE in August of 2011, where he was released from the company before moving on to the independent scene and New Japan Pro Wrestling. However, 10 years later in July 2021, Smith would randomly return to WWE in a dark match before SmackDown under his real name, with it later being announced that he had re-signed with the company. Fans would anticipate his eventual return to television, although that wasn't to be. Plans for him to re-debut as a Stampede stud would ultimately be scrapped for his eventual release 4 months later. In an interview with Inside the Ropes, Smith Jr. would discuss how his almost WWE return came to be and ultimately fell through. John Cena said, "The next time you're going to come to SmackDown, it's going to be your debut. And you really did good in your dark match. Vince really liked it. So I was like, great, I'll just wait then and they'll ask me to do a dark match in Tampa, and then we're going to do some backstage vignettes with me in my father's leather vest." Then I was kind of forgotten about. I came to TV 1 or 2 times, I was waiting to come back, and then they called and Johnny Laurinaitis said he wasn't a fan of it, his release. He wasn't happy with the list of names that he was given, but it wasn't from him. I don't know what they were waiting for. The only thing I was told, I was going to be debuting on SmackDown and they were going to call me the Stampede Stud. It never happened. It wasn't my fault. I showed up more than in shape. I saw Vince and he was like, "Oh, you're looking good, kid." Smith has expressed an interest in returning to WWE again someday, although it remains to be seen if the interest is mutual. Number 7. Doink the Clown, Raw 2007. Doink the Clown was an early 90s WWE character that was portrayed by many different wrestlers over the years. However, the original Doink was played by Matt Bourne starting in 1992, and this run is considered to be the peak version of Doink the Clown. Bourne's one-year run as Doink would come to an end in 93 before Ray Apollo took over the gimmick, although Matt would reprise the role one more time in WWE 24 years later. A gimmick battle royal would take place on the 15th anniversary episode of Monday Night Raw in 2007, and it was here that the late Matt Bourne wore the face paint for one last time. Matt would ultimately be eliminated by Al Snow's head in his final ever WWE match. Number 6. Joy Giovanni, WrestleMania 25. In 2004 and 2005, Joy Giovanni would appear as an on-screen personality and backstage interviewer known for her role as the assistant to SmackDown general manager Teddy Long. She would eventually be released from WWE in July of 2005 due to quote-unquote budget cuts. 4 years later in 2009, Giovanni would randomly work her first and only match in the 25 Diva Battle Royal at WrestleMania 25, although her in-ring debut wouldn't last long as she would be eliminated in seconds by the Bella Twins. Number 5. Alundra Blaze Evolution 2018. Alundra Blaze was a pioneer of the WWE Women's division in the early 90s, and although in 1995 she would make a shock move to WCW where she threw the WWF Women's Championship into a trash can, this controversial segment would be one of the many reasons Medusa and WWE had heat for many years, leading the fans to doubt if she'll ever appear on WWE television ever again. However, shortly after the Women's Revolution, WWE would begin to celebrate female legends of the past, leading to a Hall of Fame induction for Blaze in 2015. 3 years on, Alundra would work her first WWE match in 28 years as an entrant in the Battle Royal at the all-female Evolution pay-per-view in October 2018, which was her final WWE match to date. Number 4. Tatanka WrestleMania 32. WrestleMania 32 would be the home to the third annual Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, a match that would feature one of the most random appearances on this list. As the ring began to fill up for the 20-man tussle, fans would spot a wild Tatanka amongst the pack of the current main roster talents. This was a surprise to many as his appearance was totally unannounced, and he would end up outlasting the likes of Damien Sandow, The Big Show, and Diamond Dallas Page, and was the 8th man eliminated from the Battle Royal. Tatanka's last match before this was 9 years prior in 2007 during a brief 1-year stint on the SmackDown brand, and this was a run that came 10 years after his initial WWE exit in 1996. These seemingly random returns nearly after a decade could be a sign that we're due another Tatanka encounter in the next few years. Number 3. Heath Slater Raw 2020. Heath Slater, once a member of the 3MB and the Nexus, was a staple of the WWE lower mid-card for a number of years after moving to the main roster in 2010. 10 years later, Heath would be released from the company in April of 2020, with this being as part of the pandemic budget cuts that saw a number of names go. However, it wasn't long before Slater was back on Raw for one night only when he confronted former 3MB stablemate Drew McIntyre on July 6, just 3 months after his release, demanding a match with the newly crowned WWE Champion. Unfortunately for Heath, he was defeated in convincing fashion in just 24 seconds. He would then be attacked by Dolph Ziggler after the match, before Drew made the save as the two embraced in Slater's final WWE moment to date. Number 2. Vader Raw 2012. Vader is one of the most intimidating and powerful big men in wrestling history and would become a dominant force in WWE in the mid-90s. Following his 98 departure, he made several sporadic appearances in WWE, including a match at the age of 57. In 2012, Heath Slater would begin to take issue with legends of WWE's past, finding himself in matches with the likes of Psycho Sid, Road Warrior Animal, and Doink the Clown, portrayed by the Brooklyn Brawler. But it was on the June 11th episode of Raw where Heath Slater would come face to face with the Mastodon Vader. Vader would defeat Slater in just over 3 minutes, finishing him off with a Vader Bomb in his first WWE match in 14 years. This would also be Vader's last ever match in WWE before sadly passing away 6 years later. And number 1, Bubba Ray Dudley NXT 2024. In 2023, the Dudley Boys signed Legends deals with WWE, which led to appearances in WWE video games and toy lines. Bubba would also work as a special guest referee at WrestleMania 40 for the street fight between the Final Testament and the Pride in 2024, and later that same year he would wrestle his first WWE match for more than 8 years. On November 11th, 2024, NXT would head to the ECW arena for a special episode, and the show would see Bubba Ray Dudley team up with NXT champion Trick Williams in a losing effort against Ethan Page and Ridge Holland. Despite the loss, Bubba and Trick would drive Page through a table thanks to an assist from Devon Dudley, who would get the table for the duo. But there you have it, folks, 10 WWE wrestlers who randomly returned for just one match. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.